Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. This is episode 185, and we're going to talk about disrupting your now. And I brought on the author of this awesome book, Lisa Kipps-Brown, and thank you for being here. And we've known each other for a while.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Rob. Yeah, I think we first met out in San Francisco.
Yeah,
When
we were at a Steve Sims speakeasy, and my audience knows that I talk about Steve Sims a lot. I don't know if that's good or bad, depending
Yeah.
on your view of him. But for me, Steve is a great guy. He devotes a lot of his time to helping entrepreneurs, and he actually wrote the foreword
Uh-huh.
um, to your book. And what was the premise? Why did you want this book now?
Well, I'm 60. So I'm at the
No
age. uh,
way. Not 60.
no, I am. I'll be 61 in May. But I'll send you a box of cookies after this, Rob. Um, I've been an entrepreneur since 1990. I've owned my web development business since 96. And one of the things that I've constantly heard over the years is one day I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to do that. And it's not just people who already own a business and they
Right.
go, one day I'm going to switch it up. It's also people who are working. One day I'm going to start a business. So my whole thing is one day and someday never come.
Yeah.
So figure out a way that you can start working towards it now. And it's fine if it's just little baby steps,
Mhm.
but figure out what you really want out of life and how you can get it. And so that's why I wrote the book. And I ended up featuring 50 entrepreneurs in it that run the gamut from people like Steve to a guy who was in prison for 15 years for armed robbery and to a teenager on the spectrum, because I wanted people to realize anybody can be successful
Right.
if you follow your heart and do it in a smart way.
Back in 1999, I really wanted to take my family to Disney World. But at
Uh,
the time, my business was suffering. I mean, we had all kinds of problems that year, and I thought the only way I can achieve the goal of taking them to Disney World in the next year was to raise my prices. But when you talk to entrepreneurs, most of them say, "Well, I'll do it later."
yeah.
Right now is not good time because consumers don't want to spend more money. I
Hmm.
might I might upset the balance of the cosmic whatever it is. And I thought, what? Most people don't know what my prices are anyway. So
That's
if I
right.
raise
Yeah.
my prices, they
Mhm.
won't care. And
Yeah.
and so that's what I did. I almost doubled my prices that year. And the funny thing is that the people would call me. They wouldn't even ask for price. They just say, "Hey, come on out and do the work." I give them
Yeah.
the
Because
price. They're like, "Oh, okay." And within 6 months, I had enough money saved up. I took the family to Disney World, and to me, that was my turning point. And from that point on, I've taken the kids, to Disney almost, either every 5 years, I mean, it was every 5 years up until 2015, and then it was almost every year afterwards.
yeah.
And it was just one of those things where I had to disrupt what I was doing, what I was thinking, and how I was doing things to be a
Yeah.
benefit to me and my family.
Well, and what you said is such a great lesson to everybody out there, because people are like you said, oh, I can't raise them because I'll lose all my clients. But you have something of value.
Hmm.
And by raising your prices, it actually helps you weed out people and helps you find the people who really deserve to be working
Right.
with you. And I actually, every few months, whenever I get to a certain point of being booked up, I'll raise it up a little more because I'm like, maybe not on the people that are already working with me, but new
Right.
people, I'm like, I'm busy. If you want to work
Hmm.
with me, and I love meeting new people. I love working with new people, but a lot of the stuff that I used to do for free, like leading up to an engagement, that
Right.
was really part of discovery. But I did it, and I've talked about strategy a lot. And of course, people go off and work with somebody else, or even if they work with us, like, man, I've already given away so much knowledge.
Yeah.
So I turned that into my like brainstorm services that I offer, the phone calls and everything.
Right. I mean,
So,
I don't even give free phone calls anymore. I mean, I give so much away for free. When I make posts on social media or
yep,
videos or whatnot. To me, that's the free content. If
exactly.
someone wants to pay for coaching or they want more advice, they're going to have to schedule and
Yeah.
they're going to have to pay because they got to have skin in the game.
Yeah, and when they do, then you know they're serious. And like I said, they deserve to work with you because if they're not willing to invest that amount in themselves, why should you be willing to invest in them?
Right. Technology has really come a long way, over the years. And off air, we had talked about some of the things that kind of got us into, doing what we do. And I talked about my college experience and you said you've been doing this, longer than dirt was invented.
Yep.
But, sales as a service is something relatively new within the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I think it was always there, but it was
Yeah.
really it didn't come together as a term, and
Mhm.
and and now it's something that like everybody talks about.
That's right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I started one of the first ones in the late '90s and sold it right before the .com bubble burst. But it's just learning to think differently and stop copying what everybody else is doing. What I love to do with SaaS companies is I love to help older people, like while I'm helping them uh, take their lifetime of experience and turn it into a lifestyle business. I like to help them match up with the right SaaS products out there, and
Mhm.
that way I'm helping both the SaaS companies and the entrepreneurs because Rob, most people out there look around and see what everybody else is using, and that's what they use. They
Right.
think this is the website platform, this is the mail, this is the and they have no clue how many things are really out there and that there may be others that are much better fit for them.
Right. For me, it was you know a lot of my listeners know that I had a cleaning business in my prior lifetime, and you know I always wanted to be a coach. I always wanted to teach people how to do marketing and better their companies.
Mhm.
But in doing so, I invested money into computers and this and that and everything else. And I thought, but I'm traveling a lot.
Mhm.
I hate taking a laptop through security. It's such a pain in the ass.
It is.
And so basically I take my phone and my iPad. That's it now. And
Mhm.
people are like, well, you don't you need something bigger? You work on websites, you do this, you do that. I don't need anything that cumbers me down. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to make what you do simple.
Right. Yeah. And that when I started this business in my past life, I was an accountant. Actually, my degree is in accounting, and I passed the CPA exam and all that. But I hated it. I was so bored, and the people, sorry, accountants, some of y'all are awesome, but a lot of you are boring. And just having to dress so conservatively. So anyway, when I discovered well, I mean, I've been using the web since like 90, 91 for just AOL type stuff. But when I really got interested in development, I was the financial controller for an international software company. This was 95. And I started getting interested in web design. And I was like, oh my God, this I can use along, like I have an impulsive nature, and that probably surprises you, Rob. But I like I like things with a beginning and an end. I hate repetitive tasks.
Mhm.
I love just being able to try things and see if they work. And when I discovered web design, I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. Because unlike back when I was in college, and I mean, probably people watching don't even remember this, but Fortran, like we had to do punch cards and sit in line. And I was just like, oh my God, this is killing me. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, I can just type some code up. And of course, back then we had to dial up and upload it. So it wasn't truly immediate, but it felt immediate because
Mhm.
do it on your text editor, upload it, and refresh the browser and see if it works. But you and I came up at the same time where we had to hand code everything initially.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I
yeah,
I remember trying to cross code from a Trash 80, which is a TSR 80 from Radio Shack to an Atari or Commodore or
mhm,
even an Apple. And yes, apples were back then.
Yeah.
Um, and the codes weren't working. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I do this and then take it back and cross. And coding was such a pain in the rear. You had to learn basic. You had to learn Dash, like you said,
Right.
Fortran and Cobalt and all these other things. And I'm not saying things have been simplified, but building a website is so much easier now because you can just pop a theme up and recolor it and put new
Yep.
text and do this and do that. And instead of taking 3 weeks to build a website, you can take 6 hours.
Right. Yeah, it's totally different than when we first started, and that's great because it opens up the ability to quote unquote make a website,
Mhm.
opens it up to so many more people, and then people who need like strategy can
Mhm.
turn to people like you and me and use our higher value knowledge and go get somebody else who knows how to make pretty things
Right.
create the site,
Yeah.
because that's really it's important, but it's not the most important thing, what
You
it
know,
looks like.
I like when ugly sites outrank beautiful sites. It's just,
Oh,
people come to me and they say, "Can you optimize this site?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks like crap, but we're gonna make it up." And and
yeah.
people are searching, and that's this ugly site that pops up all the time, and they're like, "But I spent all this money on this beautiful site. Why isn't it ranking?"
Hmm.
Because there's no optimization. Your
Yeah.
web designer just doesn't, and they don't understand. And
Yeah.
to me, it was the gravitation. I can build websites great. My strength is SEO, and I
Yeah.
love SEO because to me, without that engine, without that SEO to power it through to Google and all the other search engines, your website's never going to get found.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell people, think about Google being any of the search engines. What they are trying to deliver is the best search results
Right.
to the users. So if you want them to deliver that, you have to let them know that your content is
Right.
something that people need, not that it's crap. And
Yeah.
people don't know, they think, oh, I'm just going to make it look pretty and it's going to jack all the way to the top. Or they're like, I want to get every listing on the first page of Google. I'm like, sorry, they're not going to do that, because the point is to give a variety
Right.
of options so that
Or
people
or
can.
or or they like to use industry related keywords, which the only people that are typing industry related keywords are people in your industry. Your
That's right.
consumer, your customer is never going to type those words. So
Yeah.
you really have to understand the mindset of the customer that's searching for you and use their terminology. And when I say customer, I don't mean anybody that breathes. I mean that exact avatar that you want buying from you, and people don't
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, to me, I think one of the hardest things to do is help yourself because you're so close to it.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to narrow down that avatar, that one person, everybody's like, "Oh, but I don't want to give up all these other people." And they don't understand that you're not going to give them up, but if you can talk directly to the ideal person, then maybe you'll get them, and then the other people will just kind of find you naturally because of
Right.
that.
Both you and I are at the age where we're kind of looking towards retirement. Not
Yeah.
that we'll ever retire, but a lot of our clients are older than 50. And
Yeah.
and I prefer clients that are closer to my age because I can relate to them.
Same.
Ones that are younger than me, they're very impulsive. They think they know the world, and I guess I was there once.
Yeah.
But you know, for us, it's we look at a certain type of demographic, and we know this is how we can help you. This is what we're going to do. This is
Mhm.
how we're going to do it. But are they exactly the types of people that we should be helping?
Yeah. The older people, you mean?
Older people, younger people. I
Yeah.
mean, it just I what I've discovered is when I go through my analytics on Facebook or Google AdWords, the people that are searching for like fractional CMO
Mhm.
are men between 25 and 35.
Right. Yeah.
Not even my demographic.
Yeah, it's a buzzword that they're all, that they're all using. And and I love helping people in our age group also because I feel like I can make such a big difference in their
Mhm.
life and their lifestyle. So much more, so much bigger of a difference than I can with somebody younger, partly because of the stage of life that they're at, and also partly because they will listen. They don't think, oh, you got to be stupid because you're over a certain age, you know? And the other thing that I love to do is help people, of course, at our age, it gets more common, help people who have some kind of situation in their life that's disruptive
Right.
and help them figure out how they can get through it. Like, even though I had owned my business for 16 years when my mother started with Alzheimer's, and I'd already cared for my father-in-law for over 7 years with that
Mhm.
while I owned the business and was raising my kids. So you would think, oh, she's not going to make the same mistakes again. But no, I didn't make the same mistakes. I made worse mistakes because I was so focused on, oh my God, what can I do to protect my business while I'm doing this? And I made decisions that I would never have let a client make
Mhm.
because it went totally against what I wanted my business to even be,
Right.
you know? And so I love doing that, helping protect people from themselves because I mean, it took me years
Yeah.
to get over that financial impact of the. But I have to say, it's something to be said for knowing the absolute worst decision you've made in your life, you know. But
I noticed in the background you have another book.
yeah, yeah, Boomer Cash Out. Yeah, this
I,
I wrote
I've
this.
never read that one. Let's
And
talk about
it's
that one.
little. I wrote that in 2017. Basically, Rob, all the stuff that I'm constantly telling the age group of people that we're talking about, you need to be doing this. And they're like, oh, I'm good. You know, I'm making enough money. I'm good. I'm like, yeah, but you're never going to be able to sell your business. Why is anybody, especially younger, going to want to buy it if you
Right.
haven't integrated at least some of the online stuff? So that book, it was everything in my head that I've been preaching to my clients for years. I'm like, you know what? If I put it in a book, maybe they'll listen better. So I sat down in a weekend and wrote that. It's layman's term. It is not how to do stuff. It's why it's so important, and also explaining to them why they shouldn't be embarrassed that they don't understand. You know, I'm sure you've heard of digital natives and digital immigrants. And
Mhm.
so people, so I talk about that in there. If somebody moves to America and they don't speak the language at all, if they're trying, we're not like, they're just stupid. But older people, we think, oh, if we don't understand something, we're embarrassed to ask. And so I talk about that a lot in there, talk them through that, why they shouldn't be embarrassed, but why they do need to do these things. And I talk about like the kinds of apps that are
Right.
out there, the kinds of things they can do.
It's kind of the wrap up of No Experience Necessary, the book I wrote in 2017, I co-wrote,
Uh-huh.
and it was basically social media for the boomers, Gen Xers, but it also taught them how to use social media to build their legacy.
Yeah.
And your book was kind of like this prequel. You knew that, you had to help them disrupt, what they're
Uh-huh.
doing. You gave them the ideas, and then you came out with this bigger book 5 years later.
Yeah. Well,
But
in that book, I call it the bathroom book for business because, as you know, you can like open it up anywhere. The stories range from like a page to three pages. And I personally like that you can pick it up anywhere
Mhm.
and read something. You don't have to start the beginning and finish at the end, you know, because a lot of us are busy. And I know I'll pick up a book and I'll start reading. I'll get part of the way through. I set it down. Later, I'll come back on. I don't even know what I read just because I'm so scatterbrained now. But so I like that people can pick up from anywhere.
One of the things that I recommend everybody read this book. But
Thank you.
what I don't want anybody to think about is shiny objects, because
Yes.
they will not disrupt your now. They will actually, you know, steal your time, your
Yeah.
money, and fill your life with aggravation. So
Yeah.
avoid the shiny objects at all costs. And those shiny objects, you'll see them. People are, hey, I got something that's going to make your life easier, and
Yeah.
you just pay me $50, or
Mhm.
apps and programs and all kinds of garbage you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah, you could spend the rest of your life and all of your money and still have people going, "You gotta try this new app." And I try to explain to people all apps are tools. So
Hmm.
I like to use analogies and like everyday language so that people understand what they can put it in their own perspective. So I talk about like I love to mow the grass. Mow
Oh,
with a push
I do
mower.
too. It's my relaxation. I put my
Yeah,
headphones
yeah.
on, and I come
Yeah,
up with great ideas when I'm mowing.
that's how I am. Exactly. And I use the push mower, and we have a lot of hills. So and I laughed. Last year, my doctor was like, "So, what are you doing now for workout?" I'm like, "I'm mowing." And you could tell she kind of rolled her eyes, like, "Yeah, right." Because she used a small, I held up my Fitbit app. I'm like, "Yeah, look, I mowed 9 miles yesterday."
Yeah.
She's like, "Ooh, okay, I'm going to be quiet." But, I tell people, so I love the push mower.
Hmm.
And I listen to my podcasts and drink my water and do whatever. My husband hates yard work, hates mowing, hates anything to do with it. So he rides around on the riding lawnmower and drinks beer. Either way, the lawn gets mowed,
Hmm.
you know? And that's all we care about at the end of the day is that the lawn gets mowed. So I use the push mower because that's what I like and I don't mind the extra time. And he uses the riding mower because he hates it and just wants to, finish. So people need to think about the web and apps like that. Everything out there isn't for every person.
Right. And social media isn't for everybody either. I mean,
Yeah.
you might say, "Hey, I don't like Facebook," and or you say, "Hey, where I get all my business is LinkedIn." What I
Yeah.
tell people is focus on three, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you do Facebook, LinkedIn, and maybe Instagram, or instead of Instagram, Twitter. For me, Twitter is so chaotic. I don't like it. So I focus on YouTube. I focus on LinkedIn, and I focus on Facebook because that's where my clients are. That's where I get the most response.
Yeah.
For me, TikTok never resonated. Snapchat never resonated. And if it doesn't resonate with me, I'm not going to put a lot of effort into it. Now,
Yeah.
some people do have success with those. So if you're going to, maybe you try it out. If you don't like it, stop doing it. But
Yeah.
for me, it's just pick three and dominate.
Yeah, that's how I am. And if you want to try some other things, of course you can try it, but you can never do everything.
Yeah,
And when you do try to do everything, that's when you really get nothing done.
right. I mean, I used to try to spend all kinds of time on all these, and I'm like, yeah, but I got all this work to do. I can't. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've strived over the last year was to reduce the amount of time that I'm either in front of the computer or doing work.
Yeah.
I got kids, I got grandkids, and so they say the typical entrepreneur works half a day, it's 12
Yeah.
hours. I'm like, no, I want to reduce that. So
Yeah.
I limit myself to 4 hours a day,
Yeah. Good for
and
you.
so in those 4 hours, I am hyper focused. I get stuff done. I probably get more stuff done than most people, in 4 hours than most people get done in 40 hours. You
Yeah.
know, and when you look at it, I got all these books I'm writing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and doing podcasts, and people are like, Rob, you're like constantly working, aren't you? I'm like, nope, 4 hours a
Yeah.
day. And they're like, they don't understand it. But to me, sometimes disrupting your schedule,
Yeah.
disrupting how you do things,
Mhm.
forces you to do things better
Yeah.
in less hours.
That's so true. And the thing about the social media platforms, also think about it in everyday life. You don't go to every single store out there, you don't go to every single park,
Right.
every single nightclub. You pick the ones that have what you want to buy or have the people there that you will have fun talking. So it's the same thing. People look at the internet as being like this separate thing that's hanging out there.
Right.
I look at it as more just like a merging everything, like
Right.
oxygen. We don't think about where's oxygen. We just
Right.
breathe it.
And I remember when the internet was basically in its infancy, and you could go to certain things, but if you wanted to go to other things, you had to pay, and it
Yeah.
was very expensive. And you get these bills for $100 a month, and you're like, wait a minute, what did I download? And now you spend 30-40 bucks to get on the internet, and although for me, you got 5 phones and this and that, and
Yeah.
and you look at it going, wait a minute. Spending hundreds of dollars for what?
I know. It's amazing though how much it has changed, and I know you were using it before I was, as far as development, like, because you were using it back in the 80s
Mm-hmm.
when you were in college, and I was out of college and working then. So I wasn't free to like explore as much. I did have a PC at home and, and all that, but I wasn't messing around with the web until probably 91 ish or whatever. But yeah, it's hard to believe. It's like, oh my God, how we used to have to plug everything in and wait, and then it took forever to upload everything. And now, you see websites, people are uploading like uncompressed images, the original size. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, I think it was 1990. 1990. It was in the late 90s. It was when the prequel sequels or the prequels of Star Wars were coming out, and I went to download a trailer. It was a 3-minute trailer, and it was going to take 9 hours to download. And I'm like, 9 hours to download to watch 3 minutes, and now it takes 3 minutes to download like
Yeah.
3 hours worth of a movie
Yeah, it's
on high speed. It's
crazy.
crazy.
I love how the web has opened up so many things and so that we can learn so much easier. Like when I was teaching myself, I had to go to all the bookstores that Amazon is now shut down. I had to
Hmm.
go to those bookstores to buy coding books to teach myself the things, because like I had to develop my first shopping cart because there were no shopping cart apps or
Right.
platforms. It's basically enterprise level stuff. And I kept all those books. I have like two huge bookshelves over there to remind myself kind of where I came from and what it used to be.
Oh yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Things have made it so much easier, and so as entrepreneurs, we look at things, and I think people still get overwhelmed. They look at the internet, they look at Facebook, they look at everything and say, well, I just can't do that. My strength is in sales, my strength is
Yeah.
in my strength, whatever your strength is, utilize the internet the way it was supposed to be meant for, and that is to communicate with your people, find them, and sell to them. And it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, don't everything isn't for everybody. And like I mentioned earlier about going what parks, where restaurants you go to, whatever, you have to be discerning the same way with the internet. You don't try to go to every single city in the world
Hmm.
today. And so think of the internet the same way. Find the things that you really want to learn to do, the things that you feel like will really help you, and concentrate on that.
Well, for me, I had a goal to, you know, be bigger than what I was. So I had this local cleaning service, and I thought, I want clients from all over the world. That was my goal. Well, I couldn't have clients if I was, in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, home of the Amish,
Yeah.
where we have a population of under, 250,000. Where's my growth potential when I have 100 and some competitors here doing the same thing I do?
Yeah.
To me, you know, it wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
And, so when I started teaching and coaching, and I was starting, the internet opened up things for me. And,
Hmm.
and I was getting clients from Australia and the UK and Canada and Germany. And I was like, this is awesome,
Yeah.
you know? And so now I can get, on a plane and fly somewhere, meet a client, and they're like, oh, thanks for being here. This is great. You know, the pandemic, I think, screwed things up for a lot of people,
Mhm.
especially entrepreneurs. We kind of got lonely because, we're trapped in our
Yeah.
in our offices. We couldn't go anywhere, couldn't meet anybody. But I think that was the greatest, you know, way. I think the last 2 years really, kind of separated the doers from the dreamers.
I totally agree. And it forced the reset button.
Yeah.
It forced people to start thinking about the things that they had been avoiding thinking about.
Hmm.
But I also tell people you can't concentrate only on the web, because tomorrow it could be an electromagnetic pulse. And they're like, you're such a nerd. Like, I'm sorry, but that's true. I mean, 2.5 years ago, people would have laughed if you, Rob, had said,
Right.
yeah, there's going to be a pandemic. Everything's going to be shut down. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. they'd have been like, yeah, right.
Hmm.
But the point is, you have to be prepared and you have to be able to pivot and switch around. And that's one of the things that I love about your business and my business. It's never the same, is
No,
it?
no,
It's constantly evolving.
I have, lawyers and doctors and cleaners and all kinds of different types of clients that that make my job very interesting because I got to
Yeah,
learn a lot of things.
yeah.
But, I still utilize the mail service. I
Mhm.
still send out letters. I still send out books. And I know, I want people to buy this book
Thank you.
because, you can buy all my books too. But the whole thing is that I'm not relying just on the internet or social media. I'm relying on people to read my books, to go to the library or open their mailbox. And there's so
Yeah.
many things out there that you can learn from.
Hmm.
So like you said, if the electric goes out and we can't get phones to work, we can't get our cars to drive anywhere because we're all driving electric cars. At least the mail service hopefully will still be around.
Yeah,
And at
hopefully.
least we'll still have books that we can read. And you know,
Yeah.
this is just a small my I have hundreds and hundreds of books that I've read over the course of 30 years and some of them are junk. But there's always something in a book that will
Uh-huh.
give you a spark, that will give you an idea, that will send you down a different path than what you're on now.
So true. And you can learn so much. And even if you just take away one little thing, you don't know what spark that one little thing might start over here.
Right.
Everything starts with just a small idea. And you've written, God, how many dozens of books? I've written 3 or 4 now with the workbook that I'm working on.
I produced 33 so far with
Wow.
4 more scheduled for this year. And it was funny because it all came from an idea that I wanted to write a simple social media book back in 2013. And I
Mhm.
shopped it around and people, all these publishers were like, we want something thicker. We want something that really dives deep into
Yeah.
confusing people. I'm like, I don't want to confuse people. I want to make it simple. And I,
Yeah.
I,
You
I
want
came out with
something,
this.
you want
This
something that people can use.
right. So it was 120 page. In fact, it's this blue one back here called Share. And
Uh-huh.
it's the easiest social media book ever. It gives you 27 different ways to figure out, what you're going to post, how to post, where to post, and people loved it. And
Yeah.
and and since I couldn't shop it, I mean, people weren't the publishers didn't want it. I created my own publishing company and put it out there, and I was like, wow, I sold like 2,000 copies right away, and then
Awesome.
more copies, and from that book sprung a whole different business. Now I'm publishing books for other people and putting more books out and
Mhm.
and so sometimes from adversity you create an opportunity that you didn't have before that ends up making you all kinds of money.
Yep, that's right. And I always tell people, people think about, okay, what do I like to do? But I'm like, you also have to figure out what you don't like to do.
Mhm.
And I think even more importantly, why you like it and why you don't like it, because usually those whys that are internal really don't have anything to do with the work. It's more of your personal idiosyncrasies,
Yeah.
like me. Like I said, I don't like repetitive tasks, and because
Mhm.
that gets kind of hard if you're an accountant.
Right.
Yeah, but figure it out, like what feeds your soul and what sucks your soul away, and then figure out how you can take that into account in the work that you do.
Right. And just like Lisa and I, you know figure out how you can get your story out there. Write your book.
Yeah.
Even if you got to team up with 100 people or 50 people to get something out there,
Yeah.
do it. you know
Yeah, because I mean, like that book, I could have written it just me, but I was like, it'll be so much better if I have a lot of different stories,
Mhm.
because not everybody is the same as me, and not everybody is the same as the people in the book either. But I
Right.
think it's important that we realize that everybody is different, and therefore we need to deal with whatever problems or whatever we need to overcome. We have to deal with it in the way that works best for us.
Right.
I'm sure you see this so many people that just build their business by copying what other people do. They're like, oh, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to be in charge of my life. And then they go, oh, what is so and so doing? So
Mm-hmm.
they're over here doing everything that everybody else is doing. And then they're like, why am I miserable?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because you didn't build your business, you built
Right.
their business.
Yeah. Yeah. And people look at me and they'll say, well, Rob, wait a minute. You write books, you have a podcast, you do SEO, you build websites, you do this, and it goes on and on. And I said, yeah, because I like doing all those things.
Yeah. And you
And
can.
and the funny thing is that when you bring all that together, it just makes it so much more of an authority builder for my clients.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't resonate with everything I'm doing. Maybe some of them don't want to get on a podcast. Maybe they don't want to write a book, but they do need a website. They do need this. You know, I work with people all the
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
the
You
funny.
figure out what they need
Hmm.
and how you can help them. And I guarantee you, the people in the audience, I guarantee you, if Rob can't do it, he will recommend somebody who can.
And the funny thing is that if you look at your life, how you've done things for the last 40 years. For me, you know, starting out in high school, working with
Yeah.
computers. I'm still working with computers. You know,
Yeah.
in high school, I loved writing stories. Guess what?
Uh-huh.
I'm still writing stories.
Yeah.
So, look at the things that brought you joy 40 years ago, and I guarantee you that somewhere along the line, you can make money doing it.
That's such a great point. Great
Yeah.
point.
So, how
Yeah.
do people find you? Where do they go? What do they do?
Um, well, my website is lisakipps.brown.com, LISAKIPPS Brown, BROWN.com, in case y'all can't understand my accent. Or disruptyournow.com. That might be easier. That'll take you directly to the book page. But I'm Lisa Kipps Brown on, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all that. So I would love to connect with people in your audience, and I love your books. As a matter of fact, I was just telling my husband over the weekend that you have a book that I want to buy, the Rob versus the crap. Now I forgot which one.
Rob versus the crap. That's the next one.
Yeah, I forgot which one, but I was like, you'd have to read this book. So anyway, I love your sarcasm but how you use it to teach people.
Yeah, and see, that was another thing. Your personality. Your personality
Okay.
is the biggest thing that you can use for your brand. And for
Mhm.
me, I kind of held off on it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And you can see in the very beginning of some of the books, I started to slide it in there,
Uh-huh.
but I thought people weren't ready for it. And then, it's like, what the hell? People want it.
Yeah.
We need it. We need to
Yeah.
laugh. And Rob versus the scammers, and then Rob versus the morons, and then
The morons. That's the one that I was
and
going
then
to get
and
my.
then
Uh,
Rob versus the humanity, or Rob versus humanity, then Rob versus the entitled, then Rob versus the wackadoos, and I got two
yeah.
more. But those books make people laugh, and
Yeah.
they teach a lesson. But I've made more money, more clients, and off those books because they make people laugh.
Yeah, and they feel like they have connected with you. They feel like they know you a little bit, so
Mhm.
they feel more comfortable reaching out. And here's the other thing, people in the audience, you don't even need that many clients.
No,
So why are you trying to be everything to everybody? Be yourself, and that way you will attract the people who want to work with you, and you won't be miserable, because if you act like somebody else, you definitely are going to attract the people that you don't like.
that's right. So this is what makes Lisa an e-hero, and I want you guys to go buy her book. I want you to go visit her website, lisakipsbrown.com or disruptyournow.com. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Bye.